Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is David Novak. Today I'm going to do the Mid-Year Freakout Tag 2025, so this will be my third time in doing this. I suppose I could link the others in the description box, though I have not gone back to rewatch them. This has been sort of a disappointing year as far as my reading. I've accomplished a lot less than I had hoped so far. And so we are at the end of June, almost to the midpoint of the year. Number one, I will put the prompts in the description box as well. The best book you've read so far in 2024. Man, that's a tough one. Pardon me. Let's even see what I've read. You'd think I would have figured this out. Well, hard to say. Sorry, I don't really have any good criteria for determining the best book. I suppose in a certain way you might say A Farewell to Arms by Ernest Hemingway. The best book in terms of what would have been traditionally considered a good novel in the time when I was growing up and just beginning to study literature. There's almost nothing wrong in the execution of the plot. The characterization leaves a little something to be desired, but not in anything that would have been considered amiss in its day. So I will go with that, I guess. But really, I don't see any clear way among these books that I've read to really assess that kind of thing. 2, the best sequel you've read so far in 2024. And I've been reading Francis Parkman, and I suppose his second volume in that series, it's 7 books, could be considered a sequel, but I decided to go with B. Traven. So the first book in his Mahogany series is titled Government, and it was a very enjoyable read. I was going to say flat, but that's not what I mean exactly, but very sort of narrow in a certain sense in its scope. And I didn't know how he would follow up on it. And the Carreta was the next book. And Carreta, I think, is like a mule driver or something like that. I don't know if it's a mule or a buffalo. I read all of the 6 volumes of the Mahogany cycle, or the Jungle books, in January. And this, as I say, it after you read this and then you continue through the series, you begin to get a grasp of his method. He's examining the mahogany plantation system, and so each book takes it from sort of a different angle. And so this book focuses on the transportation, and it's centers on the life and existence of one man, one worker, who then does figure later on in the series. But this really was a marvelous book. 3, new release you haven't read yet but want to. I'm not really aware of that. I think there have been new releases of like letters of Emily Dickinson or possibly letters of Franz Kafka. For me, new could be anywhere in the last 5 years, you know. So I would like to, but not my priority. For most anticipated release for the second half of the year, I don't know what's coming, and I just kind of read off in my own little direction anyhow. 5, biggest disappointment. Well, I could easily say my biggest disappointment is just how this whole year has gone, because I wound up losing about 3 months of reading time to a project I was doing, and have had a struggle to get myself back into reading after a great start in January and February. But probably my biggest disappointment was, and I should have pulled it, it's a Penguin edition of the writings and speeches, and I think letters, even papers, of Cesar Chavez. Is that the right? The labor organizer. Yeah, and An Organizer's Tale is the title that the Penguin volume goes by, and I enjoyed it, but it was just a smattering of papers. The writing quality was certainly okay, but there was a lot of duplication in the volume. A lot of it was also just simply incidental writing that I don't know. I felt I would have fared much better with a biography of the organizer, an inclusive biography, meaning one that used a lot of his papers, or perhaps had a small appendix at the back of the original documents. A volume half the size would have probably fared better. Biggest surprise? That's a hard question as well. I suppose my biggest surprise would be No Longer Human by Osamu Dazai, a Japanese writer. And I read that, and I read The Setting Sun. The Setting Sun was written and published before No Longer Human, but No Longer Human is the book he is most well regarded for. I had them from the library in 2 marvelous New Directions editions, and if I ever saw them at the used, I would pick them up. I say the biggest surprise because it's very memoir-y-ish fiction, so it's all first-person narrative, and you have the sense that his writing comes from personal experience. As he portrays himself in the novel, he is not an especially appealing character. There's no great action that comes about through the course of the book. It's not like, what's that one that I read last year? In Another Country, where you follow the lead character, and then there's a clear period of action, and then at the end he goes away, and that's the end of it. It's not like that at all. It's just scattershot incidents and of, generally speaking, a dissolute or I don't know, mildly reprobate nature. So the sort of thing that you wouldn't think would be of interest, but in the end you, or at least I, came away with a warm feeling of regard for the author. I say at the end of both of those books. favorite, number 7, favorite new author, debut, or new to you. And for that, I would say Tayeb Saleh, new to me. This is not the book that I read. I read Season of Migration to the North. I don't know where that book went, but this is another published by New York Review of Books that I intend to get to. I think it's a collection of short stories, actually, with the main one being The Wedding of Zayn. And it was very refreshing, but there's not a lot of competition for me because there were not a lot of new authors. There was Ernest Hemingway, there was Osamu Dazai, there was Dashiell Hammett, all new to me, but otherwise can't really speak for a writer. I mean, I read The Tale of the Heike, which oddly enough, while I enjoyed it very much, I think it's the kind of book I probably would need to reread to really get the full benefits out of. I'm pretty sure there was a side-in sticker translation, or no, it was a translation that side-in sticker approved of, because I think he wrote an introduction or at least gave a blurb to it. But I would have to revisit that one to make sure. And even then, I'm not sure that the author is known. So newest favorite, number 8, newest fictional crush. I don't really have one of those this year. Let me see. Part of my problem is that I don't really remember what I read after I've read it. Yeah, so there's not a lot of fiction to begin with, and nope, nobody that I could call a fictional crush, sadly. And newest favorite character. There again, I thought that the mysterious, I don't want to say narrator because I'm not referring to the narrator, the mysterious protagonist, I guess, of Season of Migration to the North could be considered so, just because he was a person of mystery about whom we learned more and more little by little, and he was an interesting character. Book that made you cry, didn't have one. 11 book that made you happy. They all did. Yeah, they all did. It would be hard to see reading a book if it didn't make you happy in some sort of way. The most beautiful book you've bought so far this year. Geez, I wasn't prepared for that. Darn. Sorry, I have to take a pass on that one. And what books do I need to read by the end of the year? Well, I've said my goal is to read Francis Parkman, the British and the English and French or something like that in America. It's a 2-volume Library of America set. I wish I had been further along, so my goal just to salvage something out of this absolute shipwreck of a reading year is to finish that book this year, and that's the only goal that I particularly have. Depending on the progress I make with it, I will see where I go. But at the 6-month mark, my reading sort of fell apart. We have monumental or monumentous, I don't know, events going on in my country, the United States of America. In what was it, January, or end of January, Donald Trump took over the presidency and has been tearing up the country ever since. And so that has been absorbing fair amounts of my attention. So I will leave off here. Thank you very much for stopping by my video. I will try to do better next year if I am still with ye.